What if someone could resurrect and bring back the woolly mammoth or the dodo bird back from extinction? Well, our next guest is aiming to do just that. He's the co-founder and CEO of a company called Colossal, as well as a fellow of the Explorers Club. Please welcome Ben Lamm to the South by Southwest studio. Ben?
Thanks so much for having me.
Listen, I've been waiting patiently for 4 days to use all props here in the studio.
This one?
And finally, sir, this is for you.
Really?
For now. For now. You got to give it back.
It's on loan.
We don't have the woolly mammoth yet.
Yeah, there's not enough hair on it.
Soon. We're trying. It's a South by budget. We're indie.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking to myself, why oh why would anyone want to bring back woolly mammoth? And this is a safe space for woolly mammoths. We have nothing against them, but why?
Well, they aren't, there's not like 10,000, hate groups on Facebook saying that hate woolly mammoths. We should be so lucky that we are as loved as the woolly mammoth. But fundamentally, we're facing this massive extinction crisis. We're in the middle of a huge, the sixth mass extinction. It's created by man. We're going to lose up to 50% of all biodiversity between now and 2050 if we don't do anything. So
50%?
Up to 50% of all biodiversity. So not just elephants, but all biodiversity. So fundamentally, I think that Colossal, while we're aiming to bring back these keystone species to reintroduce them back into the wild to help kind of these degraded ecosystems, we also want to develop technologies as a safety net in the event that we, unfortunately do lose a lot of species.
Last time I checked, and I'm just an unfrozen caveman lawyer, not an unfrozen caveman. Thank you for appreciating that. Was for you.
You had a lot of Neanderthal and dinosaur jokes.
Thank you.
I'm just surprised you haven't played the Jurassic Park theme song yet.
We are not hacks here, sir.
Or is that a post-production thing?
No. There was no. In fact, we struck the Jurassic Park line from the interview. Just for you, to respect. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I thought I'd do a deep Phil Hartman cut instead. But, last time I checked, there is no woolly mammoth DNA.
Well, there is.
There is?
Yes, so there is. And so all ancient DNA is massively degraded. So the minute, the exposure to the elements, radiation from the sun, everything starts to degrade as soon as you take it out of the body. But there's in the tundra, there's actually frozen DNA, and actually not just like bone and teeth, but actually frozen tissue samples. So we've actually reconstructed the mammoth genome so that we can do the comparative analysis between the mammoth genome and the Asian elephant genome. And we've done that using 54 mammoth genomes because they're like massively fragmented and cut in little pieces. You had to actually take 54 different mammoth genomes and assemble them like in a puzzle just to be able to fully read it.
Wow. And we hear you're trying to do this. Give me a timeline. In our lifetime, is it possible to actually see some form of a woolly mammoth?
Yeah, so I mean,
not just this.
Not just this. Like very hairless, wooden, smaller version.
I'm sorry. Forgive me.
Yeah, we're going to make them actual size. So
we want a budget. Next, fire the person who didn't put hair on this woolly mammoth.
And then fundamental, yes. So our goal is to have our first calves in 2028. And
2028?
Yeah, which is right around the corner. So I don't know what.
That's 5 years.
Yeah, but I don't know everyone's life expectancy, so I can't make a promise on people's,
right.
In anyone's lifetime. I hope you live for a long time.
Inshallah, may we all live a good, healthy life.
For a very long time. But and our goal is in the next, 5 to 6 years, we'll have our first calves.
Wow.
So, I mean, for me, that feels like right around the corner.
That's 5 years from now.
Yeah, but we have 87 people that are working on Colossal, 87 scientists, in addition to 30 postdocs outside of Colossal that we're funding. So we have over 100 people. We have 45 people alone on the Mammoth project.
So getting funding for something like this can be a tough sell sometimes. If you go to somebody and say, listen, I want you to give me millions of dollars. They're like, all right, why? I'm going to bring back the woolly mammoth. They're like, okay, next.
So that was the original pitch, right? And so we were very fortunate. We wanted to raise $5 to $8 million. We ended up raising $16 million in our seed. Today, fast forward a year and a half, we've now raised $225 million. So we've raised significantly more than that first 15. Spoiler alert, it takes way more than $10 to $15 million to bring back extinct animals. But yeah, what's interesting is that all of the tools and technologies that we develop specifically for de-extinction, a lot of them have direct application to human healthcare. And so that's software, that's wetware in the lab, that's like multiplex editing and gene editing tools and technologies, software like computational biology, and even ex utero development in hardware. And so in late 2022, we actually spun out our first technology company, and then we raised an oversubscribed round for our first technology software spin out. So all of the technologies that we need to build a woolly mammoth, dodo, a thylacine, also known as Tasmanian tiger, we fundamentally can use those technologies also for human healthcare.
And so, give me an example of how, when you're making this pitch to folks, like, listen, when I'm bringing back a woolly mammoth, or I'm bringing back a dodo, when I'm bringing back the past to the present, it's also to preserve the future. In fact, it is to preserve the future.
Yeah, and so I think for me, raising money for any technology startup is hard, regardless of market conditions. It's always hard to get people to part with their money and support a vision, especially if it's a crazy moonshot vision, right? It's always hard. But what's interesting about this is it's kind of the perfect story, right? Because we fundamentally have a huge opportunity to create a lot of value. We have an opportunity to make a real impact, and then we have an opportunity to kind of inspire the next generation of people. And so, who doesn't want to be a part of a company that's literally a moonshot, like landing, like the Apollo program? Who doesn't want to, be a part of that, go down in history? Who doesn't want to help biodiversity loss? And then fundamentally, who doesn't want to, make potentially billions of dollars in returns on technologies that can be used for human healthcare?
And so, if this is successful, if you could get the woolly mammoth calf in 5 years, right?
Yeah.
We're having endangered food now thanks to climate change.
Yeah.
We're having endangered species. Is it possible then to reintroduce wolves into population?
Yeah, you can read it.
Bees.
Yeah, so they've already successfully done this with the wolves. So one of the most successful rewilding campaigns. So rewilding is the process of thoughtful reintroduction of a keystone species back into its natural habitat. One of the most successful rewilding programs of all times was the reintroduction of gray wolves back into Yellowstone. So in 1925, we as humanity completely culled them. We killed them off in Yellowstone. Yellowstone actually started a kind of cascading down. There was a cascading down grading effect that occurred, and a lot of plant and animal life started to die. There are certain overpopulations of the herding animals. They actually forced out the beavers. There's this massive trickle-down effect that happens in the environment when you remove a keystone species. And in 1995, we as humanity reintroduced them back into Yellowstone, and it's completely revitalized the ecosystem of Yellowstone. And so wolves, and they just actually passed a bill in Colorado to reintroduce wolves back naturally into Colorado. So all kinds of species, specifically keystone and predators, are important to our ecosystems and rewilding them.
Now, obviously, you said Jurassic Park. I did not.
Yeah.
But it's rife for dystopia. It's fear, fear of technology, what we're witnessing right now, disinformation, AI, all this. So someone say, okay, the ethical reintroduction of an extinct species, who gets to decide who comes back and how they get reintroduced?
Yeah, so the rewilding process needs to be, like in the case of the wolves in Yellowstone, needs to be very thoughtfully, planned out. So we work with local governments, federal governments, indigenous people groups, the largest private landowners, and the public at large. So even though we are not anywhere near close to reintroducing mammoths back into the Arctic Circle, we just got back from Alaska a few months ago, and we had two big town halls where we invited the general public. We met with the University of Alaska, started a collaboration with them, met with the largest private landowner, the second largest indigenous people group. Actually was so excited they actually invested in Colossal, which is pretty exciting. And the lieutenant governor and the head of Fish and Wildlife even joined our conservation board. So even though we're a decade out from reintroduction, we're still already starting those processes now. So you have to be very, very thoughtful, and it's a very inclusive process, right? So you've got to have all these different stakeholders, not signing off on it, but working with you, from day one.
And I think that's what's encouraging, is because looking at technology, oftentimes, it isn't inclusive.
Yep.
It isn't diverse.
Yep.
Not just in terms of women and people of color, but it's like, here's the technology, we're going to unleash it, and who cares how it affects different groups.
Exactly.
And now we're suffering.
And technology isn't fundamentally evil, but people do terrible things with technology. There was a few years ago, there was a ban on facial recognition technology in San Francisco because of, China was actually using that technology to advance, segregation of populations using facial recognition. Facial recognition isn't a bad technology, but how it could be used, if not properly, without the right level of governance on it, could be an issue. And it's the same thing for rewilding or any of these biotech or any of these technologies coming out of biotech.
And so, look, I don't think there's a Facebook group yet for woolly mammoths, but
there actually is. There's a lot of groups.
But I'm saying for the protection of woolly mammoths that are coming back as a result of Colossal's scientific breakthrough, right? But just using a woolly mammoth as an example, so you bring a calf, say it's 2028, right?
Yeah.
Where do you reintroduce this calf? Who takes care of them? How do you protect them?
Yeah, so the first and foremost is, we've already started partnerships with Save the Elephants, International Elephant Foundation, Elephant Havens. They work a lot with orphaned elephants and actually, look at how they understand herd dynamics and how you reintroduce calves that have been orphan, specifically, African elephants and Asian elephants, back into populations. And so what's great is that we as humanity know a lot about that. And so we as Colossal don't have all of the answers, but we're partnering with top conservation groups and specific sub-conservation groups that specialize on all the animals that we work with. Like, so for example, we're working really closely with AussieARK in Australia around the Tasmanian tiger. And so they've been massively successful at reintroducing Tasmanian devils back into the mainland without this terrible facial tumor disease that's plaguing and eradicating the species in Tasmania. So it's really important to not just be inclusive, but to be collaborative with much smarter subject matter experts in these various fields.
Speaking about the ethics of this and some of the potential pushback that you probably get now and you might get if you meet your goal of the 2020 reintroduction, some people say, it's extinct, it was meant to be extinct.
Yeah.
Why are you becoming God?
So we as Colossal and as we as humanity are trying to undo the sins of the past. Like the dodo was eradicated by humans. In the last dodos went extinct in I think 1612. In 1936, the Tasmanian tiger, or thylacine, was eradicated by humans. The Australian government actually put a bounty on the heads of Tasmanian tigers to remove them. And so they viewed them as a threat to invasive species that they were introducing, and actually livestock species they were introducing, like sheep. And so they were incorrectly kind of like framed. And so we as humans actually eradicated these species. So I don't look at it as playing God, I look at it as us eradicating or undoing the sins of the past that we as humanity did.
And I'm just curious, when it comes to all the animals you could have brought back, right?
Yeah.
Many animals, unfortunately, have become endangered over the time.
And continuing to.
And continue. Why focus specifically, like why did you think the mammoth is one that not only would be a good use of the funds, of the brand for Colossal in a way. I hate thinking like that, but let's be honest.
It's brand.
The storytelling, and that can really be the model for everything else that you want to do looking forward.
Yeah, for us, if you're going to build a synthetic biology company, building it with the father of synthetic biology, George Church, is probably the right place to start if you're going to be doing something this cutting edge. George is one of the pioneers of DNA reading, DNA writing, multiplex editing, all these tools and technologies. A lot of these came out of George's lab, right? And so George had been working on this for 6 years. So we got the #1 person in the world in the field. We also got,
who's given the blessing.
Yeah, he's given the blessing, and he's co-founder. He's super involved in the project, which is amazing. Talked to George twice yesterday. And then you're also developing technology. He had already started developing technologies to save elephants, right? So there's kind of that halo effect. When we came in and we formed this company, we started to expand it to species preservation of other critically endangered species, as well as de-extincting some of these other keystone species. So we kind of expanded that initial vision, but all of this was George's vision, right? Because his goal is how do we rewild mammoths back into the Arctic to create a better and diverse ecosystem back that used to exist in the mammoth steppe ecosystem, which currently doesn't exist in the taiga forest that's there now.
And thinking moonshot, thinking big picture, thinking science fiction, thinking dystopia or utopia.
Yeah.
If we can bring back...
I think utopia.
If we can bring back woolly mammoths and dodos, what about Neanderthals?
So we get that question a lot, right? So we aren't focused. So some of the technologies that we are developing for Colossal have application to human healthcare, but we aren't working on humans or subsets of humans. So we aren't focusing on that.
No, like not us. But I'm saying, okay, now bringing things back full circle, technology, it can be useful or detrimental based upon the intentions and the actions of the person using it. Well, but with this technology that you're going to unleash as a result of trying to do this noble goal, is it humanly possible that extinct human species can come back?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know what the purpose of that, I don't know what the current DNA state of that is, right? We get asked a lot about dinosaurs, and no DNA exists for dinosaurs, so you can't unfortunately bring back dinosaurs. And so unfortunately, some of these technologies already do exist, and we've already seen the application and leveraging of CRISPR and some of these tools that aren't very expensive, that are highly accessible. We've seen China and we've seen other people already start to experiment on humans and whatnot. And so I do think that having really great federal and regulation partners is key to when you're developing any cutting edge technologies. And I think one of the things that separates us in the United States from other countries is where we will draw that line.
And in 5 years, sir, this
a bigger
will be replaced
by... This is not actual size.
Yeah, this will be replaced by potentially, you're saying, an actual life-sized woolly mammoth calf.
Yeah, that's our goal.
Thank you. very much, Ben, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
So exciting. And you're the one that brought up Jurassic Park. I tried my best not
No,
to.
I just want to get out of it.
Ben, you're like, I'm so used to it, man.
Yeah, I get T-shirt, I get a lot of stuff from it.
Ben's featured session on de-extinction is happening at 4 p.m. today in the Hilton downtown Austin. You do not want to miss it, and he might make an unfrozen caveman lawyer joke. These interviews are streaming live during the event on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/SXSW. And I'm your host, Wajat Lee. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man. Thanks for
This is great.
Yeah,
This was a lot of fun.